WBISLP 1069, Winterville, Ayden, Grifton, Southside, Greenville, North Carolina.
Motivations with Glenn.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM, WBISLP, radio with the spirit of excellence, Christian inspiration for the family, and ministry teaching for practical Christian living. You are tuned into the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Jacqueline Cullins Williams. On today's show, Ms. Cullins Williams and I would like to focus on why dining etiquette and table manners important for adults, seniors, and children. It says kids, but I don't like to say kids because kid is the offspring of a goat. Your child is not a goat. So for our seniors, adults, and children. And before I introduce our panel today, my co-host, Ms. Jacqueline Cullins Williams, we're also joined by none other than the man himself, Coach Vernon Garrison. And as far as etiquette and why it's important, before I give it over to Jackie and Coach, I just want to say briefly, I want you to think about this, everybody, but for the men and ladies, why it's important to have proper etiquette and table manners, especially if you're eating out in a restaurant or what have you. You never know who you might run into, who you might meet. It might be that prospective employer that you're hoping to get a job with. So you want to have a nice suit and tie on if you're a young man, but you want to have a nice pocket square in the top portion of your overcoat. That's a conversation piece. For the ladies like to wear nice outfits and dresses. So why not have a nice hat on that says something about you? Now I'm going to give it over to my co-host, Ms. Jacqueline Cullins Williams.
Hey, Dr. Glenn, it's a good day, and we are glad to be here on today. We're here, and this is a great subject. I feel that it'll discuss some things, and I hope that we reveal some things that people may have not known about good dining etiquette and also what is good customer service, because we want to talk about that. We all have some stories, we have experiences, and all of us have been out to eat, even if it's through just a drive-through line. Yes. We all have been out to eat. And so, maybe we don't go to the fine dining where you have to have on a certain attire, to even get into those restaurants. But even no matter where you are, you can have good manners and you can have good etiquette. You can have good manners, good etiquette. You can also teach your kids to have and show that your children have some good home training.
That's right.
And so there's a lot of things on our show today that we're going to talk about, and we hope that it's a great inspiration and help to others.
And before Coach Garrison introduces himself, you mentioned one other thing I'd like to focus on. So in addition to what I've mentioned so far, and why is these table manners and etiquette so important? Because it all involves safety as well. You want to make sure that you're in a safe environment, and you want to make sure you're protecting a safe situation for others as well, because safety is of the utmost importance. And as far as seniors, I place that in there because I want people to realize if you're out eating at a restaurant or what have you, you want to know signs and symbols of certain things, certain medical conditions. You don't want the person on the other side of the table say, "Stop making faces at me." When the person's not making faces, that person could be having a stroke. So the person is not making faces. That person is showing signs and symbols of a medical condition. Coach Garrison will introduce himself at this time, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thank you guys for inviting me on. I think I'm sitting among the most intelligent people on the block. I am always impressed to be on the show with the longest introduction music that there is. By the time you get done with that, the show is almost over. But anyways, guys, I will share with you something that is happening in the restaurant industry that is actually becoming illegal. I'll share that the second half of the show is becoming illegal. And I'll do a trivia question with your permission and see if you can get the right answer. You know how you like bird dogging them questions.
That's right. I know.
So
what did you say before when you started talking? You are amongst the most intelligent, highly, I forgot what you said, but anyway.
See, there you go. That's that level of intelligence working its way out.
But you were right.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna make jokes today, that's for sure.
I'll do a trivia question in the second half for you guys. It's a very interesting one. But I'm gonna say, I know you just told me to introduce myself. This is a very well needed subject. I got a lot, so you got to hold me back on this one. Thank you for this opportunity.
And before we go over to Jackie, just to start our topic off with this first audio clip, 30-second audio clip.
And you returned your food because
I'm gonna start that over.
cooked right, or just something wasn't right about it. Before you give it back to the waiter, I want you to.
All right, sorry about that. Here we go.
Okay, guys, so here's a trick for you to remember whenever you go out to eat. So if you go out to eat and you returned your food because something wasn't cooked right, or just something wasn't right about it, before you give it back to the waiter, I want you to sprinkle a tremendous amount of salt or pepper on the plate. And once they return it, you will know if it's a brand new food, or if it's a brand new plate, or if it's just the exact same thing and just one thing was removed.
I'm glad I'll give courtesy and credit to my co-host for her fabulous research. Now she will expand on what the audio clip just mentioned, Jackie.
Definitely, Dr. Glenn. That audio clip just said that, to test, when you send something back, let's say something is not well. We've all had that experience where we've gotten the food and it's been cold, or didn't have enough sauce on it, or, it was something in it, or something that we ordered the wrong thing, or something just wasn't right with it, or they missed putting the shrimp or the sausage or something in it. And let's just say we don't know what it could be, but we've all experienced something where we had to send something back. So the audio take says to put an extra amount of salt or pepper on it, and that will tell you if they've brought the same plate back to you or if they've gotten you a new plate. And Dr. Glenn, I had an experience with that when I was in another city where we would order from this restaurant all the time with takeout. And I went this particular day, and the order because we had a big family, was always, a larger amount, and it was always a big bag. And so when I went in, they gave me this little bag, and I said, okay, now what's going on here? This is, I had to wait a certain amount of time for a certain dish to be cooked as well. So I came, and then they gave me this little bag, and this was not my order. So I took the bag and I said to them, this is not right. So in the meantime, while I'm standing there, another woman comes in with my actual food, and she's taken the food out of the restaurant, and she's gotten it into her car or drove around with it, or however, whatever she did with it. But she brought it back because it was such a large order and hers was a small order. So I said to them, okay, well, it took a while for you to make this, so I'll wait for you to make some more. You know, they came right back with that bag like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
they just repackaged that food and gave it to me. I don't know what that lady could have done to that food.
That's right.
And from that day on, I never went to that restaurant again. I was so upset. I was like, give me my money back.
That's right.
Because that lady could have had an animal. She could have had a disease or anything. And she's been in that bag and she's taken it out of the restaurant. And now you're just going to rebag it and give it back to me. That is not sanitary. It's not good service. And they lost my money from that day on.
Thank you. And today is not a broadcast on stories. I'm going to share 2 personal experiences with you as well. One, at one restaurant in Winterville, I ordered a special. They had a nice special roasted lamb, and that thing was looking so good. But when they brought me the meal, it had a sweet potato souffle and string beans. But they didn't say it was string bean Aladdin. Both the souffle and the string beans had almonds in it. And I'm highly allergic to nuts. So I had to sit there and hold the dish back. And they had to redo it and send it back to me. Also, I was at a local restaurant here in Greenville. And they had some nice, fabulous chocolate chip cookies. So when I asked her about the cookies, I like to ask questions before I eat them. I asked her, was there nuts in it? She said, yes, there are nuts in it. That's why I can't eat it. You have to take them back and refund my money. I said, matter of fact, why don't you have a sign up that says customers be aware of food allergies in some of their products. But keep it locked right here. I'll explain the rest when we get back. Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM.
My name is Jayla, and you're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
From the Pacific Justice Institute, this is The Legal Edge, defending your rights as a Christian, a parent, and a citizen. Here's Brad Dacus.
Today, Christian families are being targeted by social workers for simply raising their kids up in the faith. From parents with kids in public school to even homeschool, the threat to family autonomy is increasing. Fortunately, with offices nationwide, Pacific Justice Institute is here and offers preventive measures to prepare parents on how to navigate such a threat. Be equipped and ready to protect your children and family autonomy by downloading PJI's free resource, 12 Steps to Protect Your Children from CPS at pji.org.
PJI provides legal representation without charge. Get exclusive email updates by registering for the Legal Insider at pji.org.
Hi, this is Monica of Journeys Transportation, and I listen to Awesome Radio.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM, WBISLP. Please don't forget, we have several apps available that you can join our broadcast. The Google Play, the App Store, Roku TV, Amazon Alexa, and of course, we're Facebook Live. After the broadcast, you can find us on Facebook and on YouTube. I would just like to finish my comment that I was mentioning before we went to the break, because I know Coach Garrison is raring to go. So the one restaurant I went to in Greenville had these fabulous chocolate chip cookies. My question to the staff was, or to the man, I call the manager over, why isn't there signs posted that says be aware of food allergies for certain products that we carry? And she said, Mr. Johnson, you're absolutely right. We don't know why they're not here, but thanks for bringing it to my attention. And we will make sure they get placed in the store. So I went back a couple weeks later. Sure enough, they have signs in it now that says some of the items contain nuts and things that people might be allergic to. And lastly, when I worked at the Jersey Shore at a resort hotel, I was a security supervisor. We got a medical emergency call that a lady was really, really sick, and she suspected that her plate that she ate her food off of might have been cross-contaminated because she's highly allergic to seafood. She thought it was going to contain some kind of seafood before she got to play. Sure enough, it was. But we had to inform her, since we're not medical professionals, we couldn't give her anything for her allergic reaction. Luckily, the hospital was close by, and they transported her to her hospital. So see, something that could be cross-contaminated, which is why we'll get to the topic on making sure everything is clean and sanitary, like your utensils, the plate they may be eating off of, and things of that nature, because of situations like that. Coach?
I just like to say great commentary, guys. My take, just to be unique, is we have gotten away from the nuclear family as far as raising one, and Big Mama don't cook as much. Big Mama may have already passed away, and Little Mama ain't hardly pick up nothing from Big Mama.
Yeah, because you're a little mama now when you're 24.
And when I say Big Mama, that ain't got nothing to do with size. We all know Big Mama is the one that cooked, and the attitude and personality.
That's right.
So now the restaurants has taken place in the early 2000s. I was reading some research. Greenville, Pitt County, was number 3 in the nation for the amount of fast food restaurants per capita, per population. I thought that was amazing, but the drawback was we're starting to eat out, and obesity and health-wise and processed food. They didn't say anything about that. Well, me and you went to a meeting in Winterville, a town hall meeting, where they were talking about the future of Winterville and how they were limiting fast food restaurants from moving as they expanded, projecting the growth. And I thought that was so neat when they talked about the statistics of the family and how when you leave work, you are inundated with several restaurants to buy food to bring home, and less likely to come home and eat with your family. And that is affecting us. And now we're to the point where we got people who don't know anything about cooking and probably don't prepare food according to the microwave instructions in restaurants, giving us garbage. And a lot of times you don't watch out. So I go to restaurants where I know the cook, or I see a regular cook that I like, so I can get as close as possible what I want. But it's very, very difficult to send food back, and you have to be very, very conscious because if they didn't have the right cook and prep the first time, how you gonna get a retake on something that you didn't want to take?
Yeah, you want to go somewhere else.
You want to go somewhere else, so you're gonna get a remake on something he couldn't make to start with.
But I know exactly what you're talking about, Coach, particularly the time in Winterville, because I remember when we went there, I posed a question to the panel, and I had told them that I actually wanted to open up a White Castle because every time I go to White Castle, I find Castle when I go to Jersey or New York. So I wanted to open up a White Castle because my daughter loves White Castle as well. And I saw the perfect location in Winterville. But my concern was some of the things that you mentioned, but to take it a little further before I give it up, Jackie, I also said, since White Castle is a 24-hour franchise, I didn't want to have a franchise where a bar lets out at 2 o'clock or whatever time they let out. Now the parking lot's full of drunk people that would pose a risk for first responders in Winterville and in Pitt County in general. So I don't want to pose a task of unsafe environment for law enforcement and first responders. So that's the reason why I chose not to open up this particular White Castle. Jackie.
Dr. Glenn, you should have opened that White Castle.
I know.
We could use some more restaurants and things down here.
No, we could use a White Castle.
Yes, well, also healthy options. There are other places besides the unhealthy fast food that we can advocate in this community. When I lived in Colorado, there was a place called, it was a place that just sold super salad. And it just had soup and salad, a buffet, and it had meatless selections. It did things like nachos, but it was a whole salad buffet and soup, different types of soup that didn't have meat included. And so I think those are great ideas. That's something we can advocate for in this community later because, that we just need some healthier options.
Yeah. And let me just say briefly, when I mentioned the name of the franchise, there wasn't an advertisement for them. So that was my short disclaimer on that.
Yes.
Thank you.
And as Coach Vernon talked about sending, food back if the cook wasn't good the first time, it's gotten so sometimes that you're afraid to send the food back because everybody doesn't handle your complaint well. And sometimes they may do something worse or they may add something in that you didn't order. And so you need to, you have to be, it's sad to think that you have to be leery about complaining at a place, but sometimes it happens. You know, the attitude is bad and they don't want to receive that food back, or, you know, even the management, you know, they feel like they've wasted money because you didn't just eat whatever they presented to you. I also, you know, how he talked about, you know, not Big Mama being gone. You know, with Big Mama being gone, also families are not eating together. So kids are missing a lot of home training. You know, we called it home training when we were growing up. You showed that you had home training. They showed you how to eat. And in our today's society, people are sitting in front of the television to eat. They're doing on the computer. They a lot of times don't even spend time with their own children, so they don't know how bad the table manners are.
And I'm going to be real careful with this one, because I don't want to poke fun at nobody or just point the finger at one particular group. And one municipality in these United States of America, like you said, Big Mama, you know, stuff like that, and parents not seeing certain things. Wow. These children had heavily indulged in cheese fries. Cheese fries became a thing, and all these people getting obese, hardening of the arteries and everything. And the public stepped in. The public saw there was a problem and said, we're going to help the moms and dads out. They put it to the attention of all the neighborhoods at this one municipality and certain stores. They distinguished serving these children cheese fries. Jackie, your coach.
Dr. Glenn, in certain, you know, when you mention that and talking about the nutritional factors, there are, and we're seeing a lot of this being exposed in our society today. There are countries that have certain foods that we allow in the United States, it's banned in their country.
That's right.
And I mean, it's common things that we see in the grocery store, but because of the ingredients that are inside of those foods and those selections, they will not even allow them in their country, but it's commonplace here in the United States.
All right, guys. I'd say that was an excellent point. Now, with 43 seconds, I'll say the people that's eating out after the club, I take my hat off to them for going to eat because they've been drinking alcohol or whatever. So going to eat and going at a crowding up at a place is good for the business, and it's good for them because they've been drinking half the night, or if they have been drinking half the night. Trouble gonna show up in any group.
Yeah, because they've been drinking, they shouldn't have been driving over there anyway. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, keep it locked right here to Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM. We'll return in a moment. This is the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn.
Hi, I'm Travorce Newton, and I listen to Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM, WBIS.
Do you need community volunteer hours? If so, then Awesome Radio is an excellent organization to volunteer with. We are seeking self-motivated individuals. You just might discover a new career in broadcast radio. Current openings for volunteer positions: engineer, voiceover, community events. Must have integrity. Must not smoke, drink, inhale, or take any such controlled substances while on the premises and while representing Awesome Radio in any capacity. Must have flexibility of days and times. Must have valid driver's license. Must have own transportation. For more detailed information, 252-756-3137. If you would like to join our family team here at Awesome Radio, the number to reach us, 252-756-3137. 252-756-3137. Yeah. Can you hear us? Can you feel us? Awesome Radio.
We're back. You're listening to The Glenn Johnson Show. You can reach Glenn at glennjohnsonshow@gmail.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show. Thank you for keeping it locked right here, because this is a very important topic. And once again, credit goes to my co-host, Ms. Jacqueline Cullins-Williams, for doing fabulous research. And joining us is Coach Vernon Garrison. Before we go any further, I'd like to go to at least 2 more audio clips. That way we can expound on what we need to talk about after the 2 audio clips.
How clean are the dishes and utensils you're given to eat with? We put them to the test, and Stephen Fabian tells you what we found.
How clean is that fork you're about to put in your mouth? Here's the concern. By the time you get your entree, those utensils and plates have been handled by multiple employees, and that can be a potential problem. So we decided to swab some utensils and dishes. Results are in.
The samples had millions of bacteria that would you normally find in fecal matter or poop.
Hey kids, hope you're doing well. And also, I hope you're having fun, but not troubling Mama and Papa too much, I hope. So while you're having fun, let's learn something new. That will also impress Mama and Papa. We are talking about some basic do's and don'ts that you are now ready to know because you're growing up so fast. So now let's learn a few grown-up things, shall we? First things first. Are you ready to have dinner? Make sure you come to the table with clean hands and face. Just after you sit, put your napkin on your lap. Also, make sure you're sitting up straight because you don't want to look like a lousy little bag, do you? You want to look active and smart, which you already are. Now, it is always considered polite to wait for others to start eating, and then you can join them too. Also, while you are on table, keep those elbows off the table while eating. Don't you think so? One bad habit is chewing with your mouth open. No, no, no. Always keep your mouth closed while chewing and don't talk while eating, unless it is very important. Otherwise, enjoy your delicious meal. Now, what do you do if you need to add some salt to the food? Directly reach out for it, right? No. What if there's a glass of water in the way and you accidentally spill it? So always ask for what you need to the person sitting closest to it. You can say, "Could you please give me the salt?" Once you're done eating, don't get up and leave. Very rude. Always ask to be excused when finished. Also, compliment the person who has cooked the food. And after all, they have taken so much effort for you, which is why you should offer to help clear the table as well. Last but not the least, while you're eating, you should always offer to share the food. That's what kind and good kids do. And you're a good kid, aren't you? And good kids will also share this video and subscribe to Hangama Kids because there are so many more fun videos waiting for them. Stay tuned.
Okay, in one way aspect, I do agree with that, except for the last part. Share your food. That brings me to a very high point I want to make. So when I go out to eat, and I'm not going to mention the names, but I'll get my dessert, particularly from a fast food restaurant. If I order 3 Hershey pies, I don't need 3 spoons or 3 forks. I had to tell the server, "Ma'am, why you give me 3 spoons? Well, you have 3 pies." I said, "Yeah, all 3 of them are for me, so I need 1 spoon, not 3. So all that sharing, she just said at the end, I don't know about sharing anything, Coach.
Well, one, we don't have a ceremony and experience like you were describing much often. I haven't been over to, I've eaten at your place. What would you, old McKenna sardines?
Yeah.
Whatever we ate. I've gone over other people's houses. Eating has become a social interruption that, we have to take and sit down and grab something and consume food. We talk, we on the cell phones, we are checking our social media accounts, we are doing various things. So eating is just an essential thing we have to do. I wish, and I do remember, even though we didn't have all of this placing the fork on the table and pass the salt, but when I knew my mom was cooking, it was it was like looking forward to the event. I'm outside playing and I could smell whatever she was cooking outside. But I knew I better not go in that kitchen and interrupt her before it was done. So we had a little ceremony for dinner time. Even at lunch, when they were handing out bag lunch, there's a nice feeling that you get. Today, it's just food. To make children nowadays do that when they don't see it happening, you got a unique family and you have order in your house, and you're showing them a very, very a lost art, and that is to have dinner with your family, communicate, And when she said don't talk, no, that what anyways.
Well, if you do talk, you're just not supposed to talk with food in your mouth.
That's right.
You have to swallow, then speak.
Well, no,
But
Glenn,
she did mention something very important. Say thank you.
Yes.
Because I have some first cousins that were raised by my grandparents. The late Reverend Minister Weldon Johnson and Miss Rosa Johnson, my grandparents. So they were raised by my grandparents while they were sitting at the table eating, because they ate as a large group together. So if we just happen to be joining the fourth meal, we get a kick out of my cousin saying, I thank you for some more carrots. I thank you for some more peas, or I thank you for another piece of chicken. They always said that before they asked for anything, because my grandparents were teaching them proper manners and respect. Because they were in a higher realm in the ministry, had bishops and all this stuff coming over all the time. They had to know these things and had a habit of saying those things while at the table. Jackie?
Definitely. And I believe that it helped facilitate manners with kids, because now they just hand it the food and they just go off with it. They don't even have to say thank you. They don't have to say please or thank you. Just eat the food and they're done. And you also don't want, I believe, having a set dinner and bringing kids back to the table. There's a lot of things that, you can see about each other as a family, and even parents that are observing their children and watching their children. It gives you time to talk to your kids and get, to know what's going on in their life and what's going on with them, what they say versus what they're not telling you. And so I believe that it's very important to bring that family time back together. I am an advocate of having dinner together.
That's right. I think it is important. And before I give it back over to Coach, one other thing I want to mention about that, at the same time, beware of the relative who you're dining with. For instance, I had a most traumatic experience. One time I spent the night with my uncle's house. We got up in the morning. He made these eggs. I don't like runny eggs. The eggs were running. I took them and threw them in the trash. I like they got murdered by him. Oh my God. I'll never ever forget that day. I'm only saying that because that was in the 70s, early 70s. I was a teenager. He said, you know how much food costs, you know how much eggs cost? I mean, he went off the deep end, something terrible. I thought he was going to kill me. I said, I'll never do that again. And I never forgot that day. My point I want to make to about that is, and when I say beware of relatives, certain relatives you eat with, because they are concerned about food costs. That's what I want to mention about that. It doesn't matter if it's 1971 or 2024. Parents or adults are concerned about food costs. So you can't just oblige yourself and just take it upon yourself to throw their food away that they spent their hard-earned money for. So you keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Jackie or Coach?
All right. Trivia question. Which is becoming illegal in some states? Would that be parking on the front row to the restaurant and encouraging you to park away so you can get exercise, sugar, or the last answer, which would be C, drive-throughs? So which is becoming illegal? Parking too close to the door, sugar in restaurants, or lastly, drive-throughs?
I'm going to have to go with drive-through, because you're not supposed to park close to the location anyway, because it might be the fire lane. So I think it would be the third. But after Jackie give her response, I would say something about that.
15.
I have no clue, but I'm going to probably say sugar.
All right. So when we come back, we'll finish that. We're going to go to a break. So keep it locked right here to the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivation with Glenn. Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM.
Keep it locked right here to the Glenn Johnson Show.
Thank you for listening to WBIS LP 106.9 FM Awesome Radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. That was a quick break. So I get to finish my comment, then give it back over to Coach, because I know you got a lot more things to talk about. You look at him looking at me, Jackie.
I got to give the answer whether you got it right or not.
Okay. I chose the third one because it's already illegal to park close to the location, fire lane, and other reasons. But I know for a fact there's one thing that's illegal in multiple states now, and that's eating in your vehicle, in the car, at a restaurant. They don't allow that anymore because you can't get food, sit in the parking lot and eat your food in the parking lot. Illegal.
Wow.
All right. Well, this joker got it right by mistake.
I did.
For the wrong reason. So you got it right. It is drive-throughs. And I threw another answer in there that actually makes you right, sis, because sugar is become, and to me it should have been illegal, but sugary foods and things of that nature is being restricted and starting to be heavily regulated because of what the medical responsibility that they have. So putting a lot of drugs out, you're putting a lot of sugar out, you're killing us.
Yeah.
Okay, let me say why the drive-through is becoming illegal. Well, it's obvious because you're not sitting down to eat. So they're limiting drive-through restaurants in certain communities. So you can't just drive through there and grab this food that you're gonna either go sit in the parking lot and eat or bring it home and not cook. So encouraging families to do well and also the quality of life. So you got it right, Johnson.
Thank you. And what I was going to say about that was I thought it should have been illegal a long time ago anyway, because I went through a drive-through one time and I asked them when I got to the window to pay. I said, have anybody ever thought about changing this around? Why don't you give me my food first, then go to the next window and pay? Because one way to be down there to pay the stuff, everybody would have their food and gone. I said, that's why you wouldn't change it. But if they're going to make the whole entire thing illegal, that's good. My hat is off to whoever came up with that idea. All the drive-throughs should be illegal. Jackie.
I agree. And also, it's so easy to go through that drive-through and not go in. You know, when you could get out and go in. I know people that will not go to the restaurant if they have to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Or if there's a mistake or something, they'll drive right back through that drive-through with the mistake instead of getting out and coming inside of the restaurant.
Great, just ridiculous.
They're going to go. And I mean, so I do agree that could be a great thing. I wanted to say when Coach was talking earlier.
Yeah, hey, Jackie. Yeah, I know you want to. Before you do, you ever go to a drive-through and then realize the place is not even open? What restaurant is that? Not open on Sundays.
Oh, we definitely know that. And I have been in their turned into those restaurants on Sunday and found out they're not open.
I was sitting there for 10, 15 minutes one time. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, they don't open on Sundays.
Or they get there and say, what's going on? Because some of them put a barrier out so you can't even turn in there.
Yeah, that's right.
And like, what is this? What's happening here? And it's just the fact they're not open on Sunday. I wanted to say, don't let the school be the only place where your child gives an example of sitting down to eat. Because in a lot of homes, that is it. The kids only go to school and they sit down and eat at school. They have to sit down and be served lunch at school. But at home, then we want home to be a greater example than what school would be.
Absolutely.
And so also a lot of people were affected by by COVID when COVID was here, and they did not go out to eat. So the restaurant industries suffered a lot financially because of the fact that people were no longer going out to eat. But now people are beginning to venture back out and things are coming up. And then there's some restaurants that haven't returned to full service. They have really begun to abbreviate the service inside because of what they experienced during COVID.
Hold it right there. There's a lie and the truth ain't in it. I believe those restaurants got stimulus money out the yin yang. And because they were suffering, you know, the whole economy, a percentage of it is restaurants. They fed those people cash. And they turn around and complain and say people didn't want to go back to work. But they got stimulus money for those restaurants. I know they did. And then when they started serving food, they started serving garbage food. I knew that at least 50% of the restaurants, especially the larger ones, okay, got stimulus money because they making $10,000, $20,000 a day. They would close because if they didn't get that stimulus money from the pandemics. And then when we started going back, we getting half crazy service out the windows. Yeah, I drive through out the windows in the service. Well, we don't have anybody to work. Then increase the quality of food and pay the people more because you have little to deal with. And if I wait longer, I'm waiting for quality food. There was a poor excuse to say the pandemic destroyed everything when they were getting cash. They just spent that money on other stuff and then turn around and say, ain't nobody come in to work, so we got to close at 7 o'clock.
You are absolutely right. And there's still places that are closed early and have not, returned to their extended hours. And they, as you said, not only the big restaurants, but most of the businesses, the ones that I work at, they all got stimulus money. So a lot of them, they're saying, and they restricted things, and they were being compensated for it. But yet, and even some of them didn't even give or pass that money down to the employees. They still had to struggle with a smaller pay.
Yes.
Though the restaurants and those business owners got the stimulus money.
Gaslighted us. I'm sorry for getting on this. Gaslighted us. These major restaurants would have closed if they didn't get that cash flow from the government. But then turn around and gave us these sorry tale sob stories about what the food and these long lines and cold food, cheese ain't melted. Boy, that junk was getting me hot. And then on TV talking about people don't want to go back to work because of the stimulus money they're getting in the families. Come on, man. They want to pay you $10 an hour, which is not even a livable wage.
And some of them are still doing it even afterwards. They still, jobs where you have to have skills, they're paying $10 an hour or trying to pay you a little bit of money. It's unfair. And they got that money. They were compensated through that. And even some of them restricted giving that money to the employees. Some of them got that money and it was supposed to be turned over to help, some of the employees with the living expenses. And some of them found ways not to do it. They would, if you were late or some other thing happened, they would restrict your money.
Yeah. To line in their pockets, forget about the employees. But we're going to be winding down to our last 2 minutes of this particular segment. Then we'll be back with our final 10 minutes. We would like to focus on some children, going back to table manners and things of that nature, why it's important. So, Coach, you want to take it for the next 2 minutes?
I will say the etiquette, the table, the culture of the restaurant, the establishment has a lot to do with the wait staff. And I think I want to encourage anybody that's a waiter or a waitress to look at it as a small business. And the more you serve me, I didn't say beck and call me, or I didn't say, be a slave. The more you serve me, I've been divorced 2 years now. Restaurants are my kitchen. The more you serve me, the more I'm going to tip. Now, I didn't say run, or I didn't say replace everything I said. I didn't say not talk junk to me when I talk junk. But the more you serve and create a business where you're encouraging a nice way that you put things on the table, then you're going to reap the benefits. So I want to say, if there's any wait staff listening, change your mindset. I'm going to tip. I'm going to tip because God says bless. But I need some good service even if the food ain't right.
I'm going to ask both of you a question. Speaking of tips, do you think it's appropriate, or I don't know if the word appropriate is the right word to use, but so the servers that served me at this one particular restaurant in Greenville treated me very nice and kind. The food was absolutely delicious. I have respect for all the young ladies that served me that evening. So I gave them all a tip, not just the one server that served me. I gave them all a tip. But I think I made a mistake when I cashed out. I used my credit card. The credit card company called me the next day and said, you left an awful large tip to several employees. I'm like, so they said, but you used our money. It was your money temporarily because I used my credit card. But ultimately, it's my money because I'm the one that still has to pay the bill. Am I right or wrong?
You're right. I wanted to say and add to that as we're closing out this section is to, I think when it comes to restaurants and things, people think.
Keep it locked right here, ladies and gentlemen. Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM. Back in a moment.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You've accidentally cut your daughter's bangs unevenly. Do you A, line things up a centimeter from her hairline,
Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh
No,
man.
no. Sweatbands are so hot right now. Everyone's wearing them, like that basketball player and that other basketball player.
B. Get spiritual.
Mom, where did all the mirrors go?
A reflection could never capture our true
Yes.
selves.
Huh?
Yes.
Beauty is within.
C. Look on the bright side.
Less time blow drying, more time texting.
Or D. Show empathy.
Mom, you really don't have to.
Ta-da! Twinsies.
I kind of love it. As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
My name is Jayla, and you're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
Welcome back, and thank you for keeping it locked right here to Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM, WBISLP. So as not to delay anything, I'm going to get in the next 10 minutes to my fabulous co-hosts, Ms. Jacqueline Cullins Williams and Coach Vernon Garrison.
Yes. Before we went on the break, I was getting ready to say that I think a lot of people that when they go through the drive-through and at restaurants, they forget that those people that are serving are people. I mean, even though they're just coming to give you something through the window, those are people. And a lot of times that's where I think people think that God is not watching them. So they'll cuss those people out when the service is not good. They'll treat them any kind of way. And, you know, whenever we're doing these topics, Dr. Glenn, I like to try to look at the biblical perspective for things. These people are serving you and you should be grateful. And especially when they do well for you, it's nothing wrong with you telling them thank you. And speaking of those people, hey, how you doing today? You know, these people are making their livelihood through that. This is what this is how they're making their living. This is how they're feeding their children. This is how they're paying their rent. And a lot of times we see it as a burger and fries, or we see it as whatever it is that we're getting from the window, when we need to know and treat those people well. The Bible says to be angry, but sin not, which means if you get upset at that window about something, don't cuss those people out. God is watching us no matter where we are. I wonder what would happen if God would pull those tapes up on us, on some of the people that say that they love him and they serve him. Would you see your pastor on there acting real? You know, what would you see with the person that has the title that's on there, or the person that you look up to be upstanding in our neighborhoods or in our communities? What would we see them doing if we could see those type of things?
Trouble in paradise.
Oh, yes. So treat those people well. Those people are out there to make a living, and we need to be courteous to them. Sometimes you can help brighten their day. They might be your assignment for that day. Your assignment might be the person at the pickup window. And for you to say, you know, God bless you or have a good day is nothing. That's nothing wrong for you to be kind to people, especially when they've been good to you.
Especially leaving a tip. And some of those people, individuals, might be young, might be college-age students, and the tips really helps them out a lot to pray for certain things that they need. Coach?
I'm going to say this in my Liam Neeson voice. If you do not give me a fork or a straw, you are going to get cussed out when I come back around. No, I've never cussed anybody out. But if you don't give me a straw, if you don't give me a fork, and I thank this young lady for that admonishment, if I'm using the word correctly. I probably need to be more thankful. Now, I don't say a whole lot when I go through. I don't trust that they even packing the bag right. Reading the computer, and I worked in the food industry before. I was doing an average of $100 a day in tips. Okay. So I was always happy when I was delivering my food. When I showed up at your door, I'm like, it's blank time. This thing is hot. Y'all better get it. And man, I was getting it. Oh, it is? Okay. Because they knew I left the store and I brought the food to them. I had an attitude of service, if you want to get biblical about this. I was bringing something you were going to consume. You were going to eat. And so if you don't give me a fork or a straw, I will see you under the earth. That's all I have to say. I'll yield my time to the madam.
You don't know how many times I had to ask for a straw.
Oh, yes. And, well, I'm not saying that there are not places where service does need to be pepped up.
Yeah.
There's some particular restaurants that I can say that I've been to every single time they mess it up.
And watching that clock, though.
That's
okay?
right.
That
And they're trying
clock.
to get out of there. They're trying to get those people out of there, and they're making a bunch of mistakes every time. And I have to go and complain every single time that, like, Vernon said, not giving you a fork, not giving you a straw. It's something to get down the road, but it also speaks to us wanting things done quickly. We are a microwave generation, and we want everything to come to us quickly, and we want it to be precise.
If I order pancakes, I want the syrup. What I'm gonna go back and say, I love you in the Lord. Please give me some syrup. And I had to turn around at 8 o'clock traffic.
We can also look at that, Vernon, and say, consider ourselves.
Yeah.
Because when we make mistakes, and we make them all the time, God, none of us are perfect. Does God ever turn around and complain and say, you didn't give me the fork, or you didn't give me the praise this time?
Yeah,
you didn't even say grace over your food.
With me, yes. I'm always convicted. I'm sorry.
Well, some of us get convicted, but
I gotta be honest.
But some people, they, the Lord is not on them like that every second, and they
Yes.
live their life without getting any feedback.
Amen.
But we
Well-
want to give it to other people.
Yes.
Well, Jackie, at the top of the show, when we opened the show, we said we were going to focus on dining etiquette and table manners, important for adults, seniors, and kids. And I had mentioned in one of the documents, I was saying that men, it goes a long way because you never know who you're going to meet. Men should be dressed in a nice suit, have a nice pocket square. That says a little bit about them.
You could probably do another show on this, Glenn. 'Cause I want to talk about when the family, where the daddy eats first.
We'll do part 2 next week.
The daddy
Oh.
eats first. He gets his plate first, and
Oh.
then the order is, I do want to get to wearing a suit and taking your lady or your significant other or your partner out to dinner. This is a great subject, y'all. I say part 2.
That has
Next week.
been a great subject
That's
on
right.
Facebook. Do the kids eat first, or do the husband eat first?
The man eats first, and the man gets the bigger piece of the chicken. The man gets the big piece of the chicken.
I know of a family that talked about they had to wait. They waited in rotation for the wing, the leg, or the breast. They rotated that through the family, through the
And
table.
The reason why I brought up that, what I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, is because you have mentioned the biblical part of it, aspect of it, before we went live. And I was saying that you're right, because not only dressing appropriately for dining out, because you never know who you're going to meet, but attending church services. Summertime, I like to be casual because I don't like heat. But is it still appropriate? And am I respecting God by going in the street, going into church casual versus wearing a suit?
Glenn, we'll give you some time and take it back one.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Glenn, this is my take on that, is that if our jobs require us to wear pants and different things, we'll go right up in there to make that dollar, and we're going to wear that uniform or whatever they require of us. And so when we go to the house of the Lord, we need to put our best foot forward too, because the Lord is better to us than any job. He's the one that allowed us to have the job. And so we need to look and esteem him higher than we do anything else.
And he was the one that allows us to wake up to even get to the church.
That's right.
So next Sunday, I will be in a suit and tie.
Oh, wow.
I won't be casual. I'll have my suit and tie. Yeah, that Pastor Cunningham and Deacon Henderson, I will have my suit and tie on. Thank you.
Well, maybe we need to do a show on how to dress in certain situations.
Oh, I have some ideas about that too.
That definitely, we'll look at that, and maybe we'll come back with a part 2.
Yeah, but as Coach Kirk Garrison suggested, we'll do part 2 on this topic because there was a lot that we didn't get to. We only have 2 minutes remaining for today's broadcast. Coach?
I'll use my time too.
No, I'm going to go ahead and give it back over to you, Coach. You had a lot to say.
He just gave it back. I'd say eating, what you're eating is one thing. How you're eating it is another. Chewing your food, there's a lot to do with your digestive system. As far as the chewing your food completely up, I just had to realize that later. It's got a lot to do with your health. And also the time you spend eating, the dining experience is essential to our health. So I want to throw that out there, that fast food doesn't necessarily is even worse when we consume it in a fast way. So whatever we're talking about as far as the table manners, the etiquette, if you can start to see food as that experience that is medicinal, health-wise, that's balanced, that's full of vitamins, nutrients. I had a couple of blood pressure issues going on not long ago, and I started solving that issue or treating that issue with eating beets. So it's just about what you're eating, how you're eating it, if you're even sitting down to eat. If your family ain't got, well, we talked about that earlier. So I want to thank you, Glenn, for having me. I'd love to come back because, I want to talk about that time I almost ate this guy okra. I was at somebody's house eating, and I was about to get the rest of them okras. I was about to get the last part. And then the son of the family, he reached out there to grab him, boy. His mama hit his hand. She said, put that down. She said, you know them your daddy's okras. You know he gets the last. So anyway, there's a lot of stories that I probably could tell about food.
We want to come back next week and talk about table manners and etiquette and some of the things to do and don't at the table next week as well.
Exactly. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Coach Garrison for joining us today and my fabulous co-host, Ms. Jacqueline Williams. Until next week, we'll see you next Wednesday with part 2. Have a blessed everyone. Awesome Radio 106.9.
Calling all Gramps, Grandmas,